Everyone's on shy mode, trying to just get settled in. Before we get started, I want to know how many people work with small businesses in this room. If you can raise your hand, give me a show of hands. Okay. And then how many will probably continue to start working with small businesses moving forward? Okay, we got a few different. Okay. So obviously today we're talking about why small businesses don't take security seriously. I know we have a mix of whether it's system engineers, some of you are decision makers. We have a lot of different components in here, but everything that you're going to learn today, I want you to take not just about helping small businesses understand why everything that we all do in this room is so important, but you can apply it to literally personal parts of your life, because the main point of today is about one word, and that's communication. Communication matters in business, communication matters in life, and especially when you're trying to get people to understand something. So here's how we're going to change that in 3 simple shifts. Here's some common objections that you probably hear. Sometimes you hear, we're too small to be a target. Has anyone ever heard that before from small businesses? Probably all the time. Yeah, it's not going to happen to us. We're way too small. I'm a bakery or coffee shop. I don't care about security. I don't even know my MySpace or Facebook password. They don't care. Another example you hear is security is too expensive and complex. It seems like a whole lot because it's unfamiliar. We know a lot more in this room, but the average person does not necessarily know anything about a price. They don't know about seat numbers. It's not something that they're very familiar with. So some of them just assume it's too expensive and don't want to have the conversation. Third thing you're going to see is it won't happen to us. It's always easy to say that. The likeliness of us getting hacked or me clicking an email is not likely, so I'm not worried about putting any precautions in place. And then lastly, another good example would be we don't have anything valuable to steal. Some people think they have nothing valuable. Literally every transaction a business does, whether obviously you guys know this in this room, but whether it's a credit card transaction, whether it's a name, somebody's email, all of that are vulnerabilities. Am I right? And this is any part of the world. And feel free to interact also. When I talk or speak, you can say yes, you can say no, feel free to speak up. You don't have to just sit there. That's part of that communication. So what is the big disconnect? The big disconnect is communication breakdown. It's also often a mindset gap. It's not that small business owners are reckless and just don't completely care. It's that no one's speaking their language and understanding where they're coming from, the things that they're going with. So it's how do we translate that into business risk? And we're going to get into that. See, the owners just hear what I like to say, gobbledygook. It's like blah, blah, blah. You guys ever heard of the game Telephone? Has anybody heard of the game Telephone? So Telephone, if you don't know, is a game. Imagine you have 5 people up here, and the first person whispers something in the second person's ear, and the second person whispers something in the third. By the time you get to the end, they don't know what was said at the very beginning. That's like exactly what's happening when someone, it could be literally from that's building something in your business, and they're trying to explain what needs to be on the marketing material. By the time it gets to the marketing material, it's not making any sense of how we're helping that small business owner. And that happens every day. That's on some of your company's websites. That's in some of your company's video material. That's in how your sales and marketing people are literally trying to translate the amazing things that some of you are doing behind the scenes. So we have to fix this. We often, like I said, fail to speak the language of small businesses. We use what's called a lot of jargon. So we have terms like firewall, SQLs. People don't know what these are, guys. We may know, but the average person does not know. So we got to make sure that we're able to elaborate what we're trying to get across. It's bridging that gap between technical people and the decision makers. All of this leads back, and we're going to get into this more. The reason why this is so important, this leads back into closing more deals. This leads back into bigger budgets. This leads back into creating more opportunities. So we definitely want to go ahead and fix that. It's the knowledge gap. So how do we fix this disconnect? So we're getting into it. It requires 3 fundamental shifts. The first one is going to be bridging the communication gap. The second one is going to be reframing security as a business asset rather than a hurdle. So there's a way that we can actually reframe it so that it's actually going to help us more and position us to do more things. And then the third is going to be to provide a practical framework, which I'm going to teach you today is going to be called crawl, walk, run. So we'll get into that. And we want that to be non-intimidating. A lot of the things that we present out are just way too intimidating. So, bridging the communication gap. Pretty much what we have to do is step out of our technical bubble. You could, don't be offended. I always say, like, I'm a nerd at heart. A lot of us are nerds in here, or we're geeks in here, but we have to do geek translation to the average person that has no idea. Because we're passionate about everything that we do, especially when we're behind a computer, we're building something. But the biggest problem, especially in tech, is we're so passionate about what we do. When it comes to explaining it to the average person, they start to tune out because they have no idea what we're talking about. And we get so excited trying to explain the possibilities of what's going to happen. We're going to fix something, and they start to tune out. So we don't want to overwhelm people. You have to speak their language. So business owner's language, you can see, is lost sales. That's business owner, especially small business owner. Lost sales, unhappy customers, downtime where their business isn't operating. All of that is 101, business 101. These are things that business owners, especially small business owners, are thinking about 24/7. Because some of them are just barely making it. I think the number is like 96% of small business don't even make at least 6 figures a year. I don't know if that's just a U.S. thing, but they have a lot of other things they're focusing on, and security is not top of mind. But that's what we're going to reframe today. Also, use everyday analogies. Like encryption is like don't say encryption. You say it's an example of like locking your file cabinet. Give them analogies, and we'll get deeper into that in a second. And then share relatable success stories. All right, so we also want to educate with empathy. One thing is when we're trying to get our point across, even with, like I said, like personal relationships, you want to have empathy of where they're coming from. If they're sitting down with you and they're trying to learn, or you're trying to explain, at least they're there trying to be open-minded. But you have to have empathy and meet them where they are. And that starts with being cognizant of the words you're using that are going to be relatable. So let's give an example of how to kind of do that. So analogies help demystify abstract concepts. So by giving analogies in anything, it's going to change the game. Here's another thing that I've learned a long time ago. This is a fancy word I love saying, but it taught me a lot. It's called dual coding theory in education. All that means is when we are able to read something and we hear the audio at the same time, we're going to retain that information a lot more. Now, when you add in storytelling along with that, that's going to help even more. So this is kind of what we're getting into now, is if you're able to storytell and use analogies that people are going to relate to, they're going to start to really pick up what you're saying. And I'm going to give you some relatable, and it needs to be relatable. That's the other thing, relatable examples. And I'll tell you what I mean in a second. So here's some before and afters. We're going to go through these. So you or your team or your marketing material, your websites may say something along these lines. If you're explaining to somebody, you need multi-factor authentication across your systems. A lot of people don't know what that is. Another way to present that, a better way, the after side, is your password gets you to the door, but multi-factor authentication is like the security guard that's checking your ID. So imagine you're going to the bar, imagine you're going to the club, and you have someone checking your ID. That's the same thing as multi-factor authentication. Just because you have that ID doesn't let you in. You have that second person checking. Does that make sense? I think everybody's been to the bar at least once, or you had your ID checked at the restaurant. But that's a way better example. Almost everybody in this world has been to a bar or a restaurant or had their ID checked the second time. So it's a relatable, it's also memorable. Another example, we need to apply the latest security patches to your environment. That's not very understandable. A better way to say that is updates are like changing the locks after you lose your keys. Hackers already know how to pick the old ones. So hackers already figured out how to pick your old ones. All we're doing is we're coming into your business and we're just changing those locks out. That makes it way easier for me as a small business owner to say, okay, that makes sense. My stuff is rusty. We need some new locks, and that's where you're going to come in and change. Versus, hey, we need to do your security patches. I'm not paying for that because I don't know what it is. But if you're telling me that my locks are broken, they need to be changed, it makes it way easier to pay for or even make a budget for. Does that make sense to everybody? It's okay to have energy. It's okay to be happy, guys. We got this. I promise you. The other thing, we'll implement a multi-phase cybersecurity maturity model. That is a real thing. How many know what that is? That can get a little more enterprise, but that is a real thing. Those are saying a maturity model, multi-phase is a real thing. A way better way to say that, because they're not going to know what you're talking about, is we're going to start small, we're going to scale up, we're going to do a crawl, then we're going to walk, and then we're going to run. So at crawl, we're just going to do your basics, like your passwords, your updates. At walk, we're going to do policies and more backups. And then at run, we're just going to do more advanced tools to kind of build those habits for you. You're giving them a clear laid out plan of what it's going to look like, which makes it, again, easier to say yes. And lastly, as another example, is OpenSSL is a widely used open source toolkit for SSL and TLS protocols that ensure encrypted communication. That's too much. I'll tell you reality right now. When you say, most people don't even know what OpenSSL is, then SSL sounds familiar, so they do kind of know. Does anybody know why it's still relatable a little bit to the average person? Okay, this is why I say it's still relatable, and a lot of the world does know, they just don't realize they know. And this is how the example I always give. When a lot of people buy domains, whether it's GoDaddy, Cloudflare, Wix.com, whatever they're buying their domain, they always see that prompt that says SSL, at least. Obviously, OpenSSL is a different layer, but that brings that familiarity to people like, oh, I have seen that before. Or I give an example without going too deep. You know when you see the padlock when you go to a website or a security certification, that's getting into that world. So we're just explaining it as a different way. Another way I explain it is OpenSSL is a technology that protects nearly 2/3 of all websites online, or their VPNs or emails. It's like the internet security guard. Every time someone checks out, signs in, or shares information, OpenSSL makes sure no one is eavesdropping. Or another way I would say OpenSSL is, imagine the engine that's underneath the hood. So most people, you have no idea you can know it's a Honda or Audi or whatever, but nobody knows that what type of engine is underneath the hood. But that's what we are here at this conference. We're the ones working on that engine under the hood or using all those tools. Does that make sense to everybody? Just different ways to explain it. But me explaining it from a car perspective is way more relatable and memorable, which is most important because that gets people to take action. And if people don't take action at the end of the day, guess what? Nothing gets done. Moving forward, if an owner asks, for example, why would anyone target me? I'm just a local shop. Don't scoff. Explain that hackers often target small firms just so they know that security is weaker. Just like a burglar choosing to attack a house with the windows open. I'm going to get into that a little bit more with small businesses. This is a great example. So 61% of small businesses were targeted in 2024 in 1 year with cyber attacks. Most people don't know that, and they never heard that. That was new for me to even find that. That's a lot of attacks. Most people don't know small businesses are being attacked. Most people would think that it's only big businesses that are going to be attacked. They don't realize it's as simple as that text message, or they try to get into your email, or they try to get into your merchant processing system. It's always constantly happening. Or also the fact that why is it easier to attack small businesses than bigger? Does anybody know? Say what? So it's not, and that's wild. It's not even about the money to pay for security because you can set up a MFA or multi-factor authentication. You can set up extra passwords. You can change it out. You could do a training once a month for your team to, look for phishing emails. Nobody puts these things in place. It's easier to attack the small ones, and there's a reason why is because they don't have things in place. There's usually not a lot in place, or it's the basic things, or they may put like a basic, let me see. Yeah, I was going to give that example of some of the enterprises it puts them more at risk because sometimes, puts them more at risk. Okay, so the main point I want to get to is show, don't tell. That's the game changer. I can talk about it all day long. You can talk about it all day long. But actually showing people is the game changer. You have to show them and not just tell. Here's a great way to do that. Because I can sit here and talk to a business owner, just like I said, and I could talk about 61% of small businesses are attacked. You may see it, you may not see it, but actually showing them is a great thing to do. So how many are familiar with these without me even clicking on these yet? Anybody know what these are? These are example of live attacks going on, a visual that people can actually see. And then there's different websites that will break it down by the different type of attack. So all of these are happening as we speak. It could be very small, it doesn't have to be, and that doesn't mean they're all successful, but these are live cyber attacks. You can see Switzerland, United States, Germany, and break it down by the different types. Let me bring up another example. And I like this. I have 3 examples because they're different visuals. These are things that are happening live. Do you think that me sitting in front of a small business owner trying to explain to them how to be prepared or that they need to have things in place is more powerful, or actually showing them? Showing them. It's like, don't take my word for it. You have to show. We try to tell people like all the things they should do to make their life better or to make their business better, but it's just talk at the end of the day. You have to show. This is real. I can't change this. I can't make this up. That's really happening right now. And I'll show last example. And a lot of these tools are free. So if you just have to pull it up, if you pull it up on during your presentations, definitely check those out. It's like a little video game at this point. All right. So, another thing, give real-world impact. Rokenbach, great example. 7-employee toy company. They realized their worst nightmare. They were hacked during the holidays, and they had lost sales. They were trying to get back on their feet. That's a good example of a small business where that actually happened to. I have share examples. When you share examples of like stories like these, this is a small business that this actually happened to. Share examples like this that are small businesses, not these big businesses. What happens too much is we try to share examples of Verizon had a data breach. Ashley Madison had a data breach. The small business owner does not care about what happened to Ashley Madison. Those are 2 different sizes. Now, there could be an argument to, yes, we could grow that big, or Ashley Madison didn't know they were going to grow that big. But those are 2 different worlds. So find real-world examples that are very similar to the type of audience that you want to target. So what I mean by that is maybe it's small banks that you want to start to get in front of, and you want them to start using some of your tools. Find examples of small banks that have been attacked. Find those stories and then bring those to the forefront. Does that make sense? It's way more relatable for me to give an example, if I'm trying to sell, to give an example of a business that's similar to that business versus one that has nothing to do with it. Because it may not make sense. I could say, hey, here's an example where this car dealership was hacked, a small car dealership, but the person that's a small law office may not say, well, it's different. We have more security. We have more things in place. They don't see the similarities. Versus if I bring 2 to 5 examples of small law firms that were actually attacked and the result, because they thought they were set up but they weren't, there's a different weight there. Does that make sense for everyone? So we have to dial in our target audience and bring real world examples that are similar to that. It's a great way. Stop telling the big data breach stories that aren't relatable. Here's an example of untold stories. Before I came here, I was at a networking event. I missed the S on stories. I saw that. It's okay. Just close your eyes or close one eye. It'll work out. Coming here, I was at a networking event. I was talking about how I was coming here. And there's a gentleman who works with a real estate brokerage. It's only like, I want to say they have 5 to 10 people, maybe 10 people. So not a big brokerage. And long story short, he opened up about things that they were going through in their brokerage that was happening live time. Never talked about it. There's so many untold stories. And I got it on video. I was like, I had to record this because how many other people haven't spoken up on things that are happening to them? Okay, prime example of what's happening right now.
Right, so I'm a realtor. We've had an issue about once a month or so. Somebody is spoofing my broker's phone number and then sending text messages to the agents saying, hey, I'm in a meeting or I'm with a client I can't answer, but can you send me some money for XYZ, whatever the reason is. And we've had people that have actually fallen for it because it's coming from the broker's phone number.
That's crazy. This is happening like real time on whatever scales. That's not going to be in the news, am I correct?
Absolutely.
It's not going to be in your local newspaper, am I correct? Or you're not going to, definitely not going to post about that on social media.
No way, no, because you just lost out on something.
It's crazy. So be on point. Cybersecurity and not having things in place is real. So I show that to give an example. Like that story only came out because I told him that I was taking a trip here, and then he had a whole story. How many other people have stories like that we just don't know when it comes to small businesses? But who are they gonna? It's not something you talk about over coffee or you just bring up to random people. And the fact that what they're doing, if you didn't catch that, apparently somebody's phishing their his broker's number and then sending messages to the staff requesting money. And people have actually sent money, which is still just crazy to conceptualize that that's actually happening real time. This was in Florida, by the way. But how many stories around you that are happening where people need help? And then ask this, like, who are they going to call? Who's the first person they call when something happens? Do they call the FBI? Do they call MI6? Do they call their nearest? Who do you call? Ghostbusters, maybe? You said your lawyer? Most people don't know who to call or what to call when something like that happens. And then there's like an internal thought, well, maybe it just happened one time. Or maybe I'll just change my number. So this is really happening. So it's also our responsibility to get in front of these people, to let them know that they can put certain precautions in place. All right, communicate positive outcomes, not just fear. So don't try to lead by fear. A lot of us try to lead by fear. Oh, well, if your things aren't protected, this bad thing, A, bad is going to happen, B, bad is going to happen, C is going to happen. Don't do that. Try to lead with positive outcomes. By putting in these things in place, there's a lot of great opportunities that will happen. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper. So don't fall into the pitfall of fear-based messaging, essentially. The other thing, it's not on here, but I want to get into, here's a trick when it comes to marketing. If they don't know you, if it's a stranger, you want to lead with pain, not with pleasure. A lot of us lead with pleasure as well. So fear, I don't want you to confuse these. Fear and pain are different, but you want to lead with pain if they're a stranger. I'll give you an example. If you're imagine yourself walking along on the street, and I'm like, hey, here's a $100 bill. Here's a $100 bill. Do you trust me or no? I'm just trying to here's a free $100 bill. It's kind of suspect. Like, why are you trying? That's pleasure. Here's $100. It's like, is it fake? Is it not real? You're trying to scam me? It doesn't make sense. Now imagine walking the street. You run across. You maybe run into a pole, and you need to call 911. And I'm like, hey, give me your phone. I'll go ahead and call it for you. Are you more likely to trust me if you're in pain and you're already hurting? Say you had bumped your head and you're like, you're delirious. You need someone to call 911. You're way more likely to trust. So when you do that and your initial marketing, if someone's a stranger and they're considered what's called cold and they don't know you, lead with pain. So that's a good marketing tip to think of. All right, finally, make security a two-way conversation, not a lecture. Encourage business owners and staff to ask questions and voice their worries. Usually it's just one person talking to another, telling them everything they need to fix when it comes to cybersecurity or in their business. You have to hear where they're at, get their personal experiences, and make it a collaborative environment. That alone will change the game as well. Because now you're not talking at them, but it's like we're working with them. You want to be positioning yourself as a teammate to that person or business. And when they feel part of the process, it's big. Even if you're bringing in, like, maybe it's the executive assistant, and he or she is giving examples of, like, yeah, I have got like 10 or 12 fishy emails that I was unsure about. And it's like, that's good. That's a great example. It's a win-win because you're letting them voice their opinion. You're seeing what's happening on real time. That gives you a chance to give them solutions because you're actually finding out what problems they really are going through. And it just creates a whole collaborative environment. And then it's like, okay, well, remember, I'm your partner, so I'm going to put these different things in place for you and your team and your business or whatever like that. Does that make sense? So collab. Don't talk. Don't go in there just blah, 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 blah. Make it a collaborative environment. How do you feel? What makes you not want to put passwords in place? How often do you change your passwords? Well, what makes you not want to change your password? Like, ask those questions. Makes a big difference. Security, shift number 2, security, use it as an asset. It's a great asset. So 46% of people won't enter their info or personal or payment info on a site that says not secure. We know that. That sounds like duh, but you know what? A lot of people don't know that. There's plenty of websites you can go to right now that say not secure. It looks super sketchy. And then that business owner, especially the small one, thinks that everything is looking good. It could be the landscaping company that's been open 30 years and their website says not secure. And because they have enough referrals, they're like, yeah, we're okay, we're good. There's a lot of complacency that people don't go back and touch because if it's not broken, why fix it? But they don't realize how much they're missing out on. And this is another big problem, especially when it comes to small business. Some are a lot don't make it, I guess, past 5 years. But another problem is some of them that make it past, even that have been open 20, 30 years, are check to check, or they're just relying on referrals, which is one of the most dangerous things you can do. So now you're an asset that you're all these people that have been bouncing off their website because it doesn't look trustworthy, they don't want to enter their card, you're coming in and fixing that, you're bringing them more business. That is a lot easier for a business owner to bring money out to pay you or your company because now you just fix their stuff that they didn't even think about. They're like, you know what? And it could be as simple as like, let me ask you, John or Sam, if you went to your website, would you trust putting your card information in there? And they're like, you know what? I don't think I would. One example I give when I sell sometimes like Google or automating Google reviews is giving an example. I'm like, go type in your business name and tell me when it comes up. And they're on page 10, 12, 15. That hurts the ego a little bit. But it's showing, let them find themselves or search themselves or see what it looks like, and that'll make a good difference. Browser security warnings. Modern browsers label sites with HTTPS as not secure, the padlock icon versus warning. So a good example of this, you look at Chrome and you look at Safari. A lot of these those two especially, are starting to call out not secure websites. So they're calling them out loud. I gave some kind of example of what it looks like. Most of you guys know what that would look like. Another thing, here it is, again, as an asset. Does anybody know what SEO stands for? Search engine optimization. Guess what? A lot of us know. Guess who else knows? A lot of small business owners do know, at least now, what SEO means. Or if you say search engine optimization. So how do we position that or re-angle that? Well, guess what? It's not, I don't know how much the boost is, but by adding the HTTPS as a positive ranking factor, Google has given that a little bit credit when it comes to their marketing. Although a small one, it makes a difference. So it can marginally help. So that's a way to position it. Like, hey, I noticed like certain things are secure on your site. We're going to go ahead and change it up a little bit. And what that's going to help is not only you look better when people come to your site and trust it more, but it's also going to give you just a marginal boost in your SEO. People pay thousands of dollars, even as a small business owner, every month for just SEO. There's one thing they pay for. All they know to pay for is SEO. So now you are contributing to that bucket that they know that they need. Is that an aha moment for anybody there? Kind of. You're taking something else, but you're coming at it from a different angle of how it's helping, especially with SEO marketing. Because one thing that is always going to be paid for the most part of a small business owner is marketing. You can't really get sales without marketing, and that can be as simple as having a flyer, your website, word of mouth. So now you need to get into those marketing budgets. There's ways that you can do that. From cost center to business asset. So present encryption as a competitive edge. It's about protecting customers and assuring them we take your data seriously. It just looks good to show that you're doing your due diligence and you're putting, your best foot forward to protect your customers' information. And you're not just writing it. It's just like if you came to me and then I wrote your credit card down, and this happens, this is bad, but your credit card down on a piece of paper and you see me putting it in a file, it looks a little suspect. You might not come back and do business again with that. So that's just the same with businesses not securing stuff. Security can also be positioned as a business enabler when working with larger partners. So some people think it's just a compliance check mark that, okay, since we're working with banks or e-commerce, I just have to make sure that we have certain protocols in a place. But it can also be positioned as, hey, you are a small business. There's a lot of people, you guys familiar with B2G, business to government? A lot of people right now are trying to land these government contracts because sometimes one government contract can change their entire life and their entire business. A lot of people are understanding the process behind landing government contracts. Guess what? There's a lot of these people that are not positioned or in place because simple things like their security protocols are not in place. But that's things that they could start right now that they need. So that's another way to position it. Getting them ready for when they are going to work. Maybe it's contracts are closing with enterprise companies, or maybe it's contracts are closing with government. So having the right security protocols in place gives them an edge when they do like these RFPs or requests for proposals, when they have these offers out. It's going to make them look 10 times better. But guess what? You have to explain that to them because they're not thinking about that. So it gives them opportunities for bigger contracts. Addressing the perception that security is expensive, complex, and stifling. It's cost effective, just breaking down what those numbers look like and the technical upkeep. Good security fades into the background. You want it to literally just, everything still operate day to day, but you're that partner in crime helping them get through everything. And it also builds trust, which is a currency. There's two currencies that aren't talked about a lot. There's trust, which is one. The other one is attention. So the more attention you can get, you can trade attention as a currency. When small businesses start to see security as a brand enhancer and a growth enabler, they'll be far more enthusiastic and less resistant about embracing things like OpenSSL updates, encryption tools, and other best practices. So finally getting down to it, you have the crawl, walk, run. I give an example of like when you're a baby, you didn't just come out just running. I don't know if you did, you're super blessed and you need to go be doing something else, but we all usually had to start crawling, then we had to start walking, then we had to run. You weren't able to skip a step. And a lot of us, when we try to present solutions, we try to go straight to, okay, we're going to come and do all this for your business. It's overwhelming sometimes, and that's why people say no, or they don't see it as a necessity, or the budgets get cut. You have to break it into 3 different categories. So sometimes find out where they are and meet them where they are. That could be as simple as, like you said, with walking. Maybe it's just this is how you build stronger passwords. We're going to do some updates for you. Whatever is going to get them quick wins is going to build trust, which is going to lead to more things later. Help with quick wins no matter what you do. Then you start to get into the walking part, which are maybe you start putting simple policies in place, putting types of backups in place, maybe putting a response plan in. Like, okay, right now you know that these emails and these text messages are looking very suspect, so we're going to put these policies in place, and this is what you're going to do in case. Those are things that build trust even faster. Remember, that's a currency. The fact they're going to feel better when they're sleeping at night knowing things are in place as well. And then obviously run advanced practices. I call it make security your DNA. So you're starting to work all together. And yeah, we can kind of get into those. Those are just some kind of examples. Examples how I gave you. I'm using it again. Real life, how I gave you analogies help demystify abstract concepts. So with crawling, the example I gave, it's like teaching someone to drive. This is how you buckle up. This is how you check your mirrors. This is how you make sure you're good to go. It's not saying, hey, come outside the car and let's rebuild this whole engine. That's what a lot of us are doing when we're trying to give them protocols and security put in place. Make security walking. Let's make it a habit. That's anything in life. You're trying to do something new, you got to start to make it a habit. As you get it a habit, you start to get in rhythm. Not a headache. And then, like I said before, run, make it part of your DNA. That could be annual tests, audits. You want to give them some team pride and ownership of their security. All right. Kind of wrapping everything up is that time's dwindling. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy and communities. This is facts. This is super fact. Small businesses, we run on small businesses. There's so many. They deserve world-class security as much as any big corporation, and with our help, they can actually achieve that. It's time to make cybersecurity not just a big company thing. That's what a lot of people think it is. So there's so many small businesses that need help and things in place, especially right in today with the level of AI and people leveraging that. I didn't even want to drop that, but people are like from the offense and the defense. Like things are happening faster now, so it's even harder to catch up. So we need to really help. We don't need more code. We need better communication at the end of the day. Because when small businesses feel understood, they listen. When they listen, they act. And when they act, everyone is safer. So speak clearly, lead with trust, and teach in bites, not bites. I hope you got that, if you didn't get that in this room. Thank you for having me.
Daniela's not going to yell at you, don't worry. Thanks for a really interesting presentation. Is it fair to say that most of what you were saying is trying to prevent cyber attacks? Because once there is a cyber attack, a small business might not have the money to bring in the outside experts to deal with it.
Yeah, I would say most of what I'm saying is about communication and developing that relationship as early on as possible. You don't have to wait till a cyber attack happens. You can start putting things in place before then. And they just don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. So it's like you can go, that's why I say crawl, walk, run, is it's starting the conversation as early as possible. You could leave here today and go to your local bakery and have that conversation. There's no reason you can't.
Can I have a small follow-up question? So then, once there is a cyber attack, what is a small business supposed to do?
Well, hopefully, as you're helping them, the right protocols are in place so that, one, you want to avoid it from the beginning, right? That's like saying the seatbelt. Like, this is how you use a seatbelt. This is what you do. But you want to have things in place first. If it happens, then hopefully they have the money to either bounce back, but that's not always the case. It's just reality. If somebody's holding them ransom for $200,000 and they are doing $10,000 a month, then sometimes that is a situation. But guess what? If they would have started earlier, or we would have done our due diligence to have a conversation, then at least something possibly could have been prevented. And things there is, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's like ransomware insurance. Somebody know about that?
Me.
Or like ransom insurance. Okay, there's insurance out there for things like this. So you can prepay monthly, and insurance companies will actually cover in case you were ever get hacked. I'm surprised I remember that. And she said me. Okay. No, have y'all heard of that?
I think our presentations are like really parallel
Yeah,
to each other.
Okay.
Mine's at the end. Like they could complement each other.
There's insurance for that.
Oh wait, she's coming. She beat me to it.
I really like this crawl, walk, run plan. It's like actionable, and I like how you combine it with the like explaining and then a like actionable plan how to do it. But technically, I was surprised that you put like multi-factor authentication to the first stage, which I would consider the second, and regular backups like as the later, more advanced step, which I would consider like very basic thing to start with. And yeah, I appreciate that like TLS like secured website is like by default.
Yeah. So what I'll say to that is, and it's what I mentioned briefly earlier, the thing to take into account with especially crawl, why can I not say that word today? Crawl, walk, run, is you're still tailoring it to that type of business. But remember, it all comes from collaboration and you sitting one-on-one, figuring out where they are. Because they may be, so there's some that already have a stuff in place. So their crawl may look a lot different than another company's crawl. Like the small law firm or the small medical practice around the corner that is already dealing with HIPAA and other things in place is going to look completely different from, say, the auto dealership. So their crawls are going to look different, but you can still walk them through. You're not either way. You're not overwhelming them because you're still starting them where they are. So meet people where they are and then tailor that crawl route to them.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Appreciate it, bro. Anybody else?
Anybody else? Going once, going twice. And another round of applause.
All right. Thank you for having me. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.